Good morning, Algebra 2. We're going to get started on section 6.6, day 1, about function operations. So this is really intuitive. It's very easy. I feel like you guys aren't going to have a terrible time with this because we've kind of done a little bit of this before, just now with crazy notation. So for addition, if we have f plus g of x, what that is rewritten as is f of x plus g of x. Okay, this is just fancy notation to shorthand this stuff on the left here. And then the stuff on the right is how we rewrite it expanded. So, for subtraction, we have f minus g of x. This is rewritten as f of x minus g of x. Okay, nothing crazy, nothing fancy. Now for multiplication, if we have f times g of x, this is equal to f of x times g of x. Okay, now if we're talking about a constant, okay, all you need to do, so if we have k as our constant, okay, k is going to be our constant, so k times f of x, all that means is we distribute this quote-unquote k to the entire, f of x, so the entire function. You know how to do this. You guys are pretty good at that. Then if we have division, so f over g of x, this is rewritten as f of x over g of x. Now, this is where we have to talk about domains, okay? So, what's going to happen here is you have to set your denominator equal to 0 and solve. Okay, because your denominators cannot equal to 0. So what happens is you exclude all x values that would make this happen. So, like I said, you're going to set your denominators equal to 0. We're going to write a little love note. So you set denominators equal to 0 and solve to find domain. Okay? All right, so that's our little love note for today. First one. We'll see if there's more. Okay. So looking at number 1, we're going to let f of x equal to 3x minus 18 and g of x equal to 2x minus 12. We're going to perform each indicated operation and simplify. So in this case, it means that if we simplify, if we don't have a value inside for our x, that means we combine like terms. If there is a value inside here, then we plug it in for our x values. So let us get started. If we have f plus g of x, we rewrite this as, I'm going to scooch in a little bit more here. This means we have f of x plus g of x. Okay, so when we rewrite this, our f of x is 3x minus 18. So we rewrite 3x minus 18. Then we have this plus g of x. I'm going to double underline that. So that means we're going to write 2x minus 12. So we have 2x minus 12. Okay, now we have to simplify, so we combine like terms. So we have 3x and 2x, which makes 5x. Then we have a negative 18 and a negative 12, which makes a minus 30. And we're done. That's our answer. Okay, here we go. Moving on, we have g minus f of x. So when we rewrite this, it becomes g of x minus f of x. Okay, now using those same functions that we're given at the top here, so f of x is equal to 3x minus 18, g of x is equal to 2x minus 12. So I'm going to rewrite, since g of x is first, 2x minus 12. Then I have this subtraction sign, and now what's going to happen is you have to put a parentheses around the f of x function because this negative is going to change all of the signs inside of your f of x. So our f of x is 3x minus 18. So when we distribute this negative, it changes all the signs. So now what we have is 2x minus 12. This negative changes this positive 3x into a negative 3x. This negative changes this negative 18 to a positive 18. Okay, so that's all the minus sign does, is just changes the signs of the function behind it. Again, we combine like terms, so 2x minus 3x is a negative x. Negative 12x plus 18 is a plus 6. And this is your final answer. All right, moving on. We have f times g of x. All right, so when we rewrite this, I'm going to scooch in a little bit more. This gives us f of x times g of x. So we're going to replace f of x with its function, which is 3x minus 18, and then times our g of x, which was 2x minus 12. Okay, we know how to do this. This is FOILing. We got this. So when we distribute, we get 6x squared minus 36x. So I distributed my 3x to the back 2. Then I distribute negative, the entire thing, negative 18x. So I get negative 36x, and positive 18 times 12 is a 216. Combine my middle like terms here, which leaves me with 6x squared minus 72x plus 216. And that's my final answer. Okay, looking at number 4. We have f over g of x. And we also have to find the domain. I'm going to do the domain in red. We're going to start with just figuring out our function in green. So this gives us f of x over g of x. We rewrite it, which is equal to 3x minus 18 over 2x minus 12. Okay, now what's going to happen is we're going to have to do that fun thing we all love, which is factoring. So between 3x and negative 18, they both have a 3 that we can pull out. So we get 3, and 3 times, what times 3 gives us 3x and x? What times 3 gives us a negative 18? A negative 6. Over the GCF between 2x and 12 is 2. So what times 2 gives us 2x and x? What times 2 gives us a negative 12? A negative 6. Okay, now we need to check, is there something on the top that we also have on the bottom? There is. We have an x minus 6 and an x minus 6 on both the top and on the bottom. So if we have that on the top and on the bottom, they cancel out. So what we're left with is 3 halves. And that's our final answer. Okay, now we're not done yet because we need to find the domain. Okay, so what we need to do is we take what our domain is, and remember the domain is the bottom. Okay, so we look at the bottom before we reduce it. Okay, so we're going to look at the bottom of our original function. So we have 2x minus 12. So we take 2x minus 12 and we set it equal to 0. And now we're going to solve for x. So this gives us 2x is equal to 6, which gives us x, I'm sorry, not 6. Haha, just kidding. 2x is equal to 12, which gives us x is equal to 6. Okay, so when we write out our domain, we write all real numbers. So this is our domain. We write all real numbers, which is the fancy R symbol with the 2 dashes for the beginning of the R, comma, x cannot equal 6. So whatever you solve for your x for the domain, that's what your domain cannot equal. Because if you plug this 6 in to your domain, you get 2 times 6, which is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0, and you cannot have a 0 in the domain. Okay, so what this says is all real numbers except for 6. So that's how you find domain. If you need to rewatch this, please absolutely do. All right, moving on. We have number 5. So we have some new examples. We have new functions. So our f of x is equal to x squared plus 5x plus 6. Our g of x is equal to x plus 3. Okay, so starting off. So our first question for number 5 is 2 times f of x minus 3 times g of x. So let's rewrite this. I'll write this. So this is equal to 2 times our f of x, which is x squared plus 5x plus 6. And then we have this minus 3, and then of our g of x, so we have x plus 3. All right, so now we're going to rewrite this. We're going to distribute this 2 to all of our parentheses, so we get 2x squared plus 10x plus 12. Distribute this negative 3, we get negative 3x minus 9. Combine like terms. We only have one x squared piece, so we just rewrite 2x squared. We have 10x minus 3x, which gives us a plus 7x. And then we have 12 minus 9, which gives us a plus 3. And this is our final answer. All right. We have g times f of x. So let's rewrite this as g of x times f of x. And when we rewrite this, we get x plus 3 times x squared plus 5x plus 6. So we distribute, okay? We're going to distribute our x to all of our f of x from the g of x. This gives us x to the third plus 5x squared plus 6x. Then we distribute the 3 from our g of x to all of our f of x. And we get plus 3x squared plus 15x plus 18. And when we combine like terms, we get x to the third plus 8x squared, 6x, and 15x gives us a plus 21x, and then just that plus 18 in the back. All right, very good, very good. All right, moving on to the next one. We have g over f of x. So when we rewrite this, I'm going to write a little squiggly line here so we don't get confused. We get g of x over f of x. We rewrite this as x plus 3 over x squared plus 5x plus 6. So now we're going to have to factor the bottom. So we're going to factor. Okay? And when I factor this, I'm not going to show you how to do it because you should be able to handle this by now. We get x plus 3 over x plus 2 times x plus 3. Now we look to see if we have something on the top that we also have on the bottom. And in this case, we do. We have an x plus 3 on the top and on the bottom, so they cancel out. And this leaves us with 1 over x plus 2 as our answer. But we're not done because they also ask us to find the domain. So when you find the domain, use the factored form of the domain. I'm sorry, not the domain, the denominator. And set equal to 0 and solve. So we're going to look at this factored form of the denominator. So when we have x plus 2 times x plus 3 equals to 0, set both of those equal to 0, we get x plus 2 equals 0, we get x plus 3 is equal to 0, solve for both, we get x is equal to negative 2, x is equal to negative 3. So our domain, which is our answer, is going to be all of the real numbers except for, and remember to write except for, you have x not equal to, and it can't equal to negative 2, and it can't equal to negative 3. Your domain is what you set your denominator equal to, 0, and those values that you get. That's how you figure out exclusions, okay, what your domain can't equal. All right, moving on. Okay. So we have f of x equals x squared plus 7x plus 12, and g of x is equal to x squared plus x, and h of x, oh goodness, is equal to x squared minus 9. Perform each function operation for each value indicated and simplify. Okay, so we are told that f of negative 2. So what's going to happen is, I know I'm using my f function, so using my f function, so we're going to have f of x, our f of x is equal to x squared plus 7x plus 12. Now this 2 means we substitute, or we sub in negative 2, and remember to put it around a parentheses, in x's place. So everywhere we see an x, we need to put in a parentheses negative 2. Alright, so when we're finding f of negative 2, this is equal to, replace this x with a negative 2, so we have negative 2 squared plus 7 times negative 2 plus 12. Now remember, when you type negative 2 squared in your calculator, you need to write it with parentheses, because negative 2 squared means negative 2 times negative 2, which should give you a positive 4. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14, and then plus 12. And when I do my mathy math, my mental math, I get an answer of 2. Okay, now we're asked for number 9, f plus g of negative 3. So we're going to rewrite this just like we did before. So we're going to have f of negative 3 plus g of negative 3. So our f of x, we're going to replace all of the x's with a negative 3. I'm not going to write down what it is with its x's. So this gives me negative 3 squared plus 7 times negative 3. And I'm getting what I'm plugging in from what they told us to let each of these functions equal. Plus 12 plus, now our g of x is x squared plus x. Up here, this g of x in bold. So we get negative 3 squared plus a negative 3. All right, negative 3 squared is a positive 9. 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. We have this plus 12. That doesn't change. Plus negative 3 squared is a positive 9, so it's still plus 9. And then plus a negative 3 is a negative 3. And when I do my mental math and plug this all together, we get 6. Okay, here we go. Now we have h times g of 2. All right, so let's do this in a different color. Let's choose some purple. I'm feeling the purple. So g times h of 2. So we have h of 2 times g of 2. Now, what I don't want you to do is don't FOIL. Sub in your 2. Sub in your 2 first. So our h of x equation was, looking up here, x squared minus 9. So I'm going to replace that x with a 2. So I have the quantity of 2 squared minus 9 times our g of x was x squared plus x. So I'm going to replace both of those x's with a 2. So I get 2 squared plus 2. All right, 2 squared is 4. So inside we have 4 minus 9 for our first parentheses. Our back parentheses, 2 squared is 4 plus 2. All right, our first parentheses, 4 minus 9 is negative 5 times 4 plus 2 is 6, which leaves us with an answer of negative 30. All right, here we go. Looking at 11, we have h of 1 plus 5 times f of negative 2. Okay, here we go. I'm going to be quick about this because we should have the hang of it by now. This gives us our h of x, remember, was x squared minus 9. So we have 1 squared minus 9 plus 5 times negative 2 squared plus 7 times negative 2 plus 12. This gives us 1 minus 9 plus 5 times 2, and the reason why I can jump to this 2 here is we found this in number 8. That was our answer for number 8. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this gives us 1 minus 9 plus 10, which is equal to 2. All right, that is the notes for today. Your homework is the worksheet, the 6.6 day 1 worksheet, and you have optional extra credit of page 273 to 274, numbers 4 through 6, and 23. All right, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Until next time.